Hey everyone, my name is Brian Locke. I hope you can all hear me okay. I was hoping to have chat for both YouTube and Twitch showing up on my tablet, but only Twitch seems to be showing up. So I'll check on YouTube as much as I can, but if you're looking to get in touch with me pretty quickly, Twitch is the best way of doing it. So hopefully you can hear me okay. So maybe just let me know in the chat if you can. I know I at least have Drew, and I sound like a hamster on helium. That's not true. I have a dull Midlands Irish accent that sounds nothing like a hamster. Okay, cool. So today in this video, or this stream, what we're going to do is we are going to take a remote control car. Let me just bring back up OBS so I'm not looking at the Twitch stream. We're going to take a remote control car and we are going to put Esp8266 into the remote control car. So instead of it being controlled by the remote that came with it, it will be controlled using our phone on a web page hosted on the Esp8266. So there's no hamsters in Ireland. There is hamsters, but they just don't sound like me. So this car, I've already unscrewed it. Was those ones that you used to hate to get when you were a kid, where it's not wireless. It's you know, attached with a wire. So yeah, that would have been awful. But I bought it specifically to modify. So one thing that's pretty nice about it is it's big. I don't know, to compare it to maybe like a standard size phone, you know, there's a lot of room in it, and because you know, there's no remote control aspect of it, it's done through the, you know, the plugged in controller. There's no circuitry. Like, there is literally, let me just show the desk one. Stream has started. Yeah, so let me just make this a little bit bigger for myself. Yeah, so there's no circuitry to it. There is literally pretty much two motors. My head is in the way. There is a small bit of a circuit board, and that's presumably on each motor. So this motor controls steering, and then the one at the back is the one that controls the power. So Drew in the Twitch chat asked, is it a motor and a servo? So let me grab a servo motor, because that's a good question. So I should try not talk when I'm facing the opposite way. So this is a servo motor, and this is a regular DC motor. So you'll notice that the servo motor has 3 wires on it, and what the 3 wires are is ground, power, and then signal, basically. And so you can accurately tell the motor how far you want it to rotate. So between 0 and 180 degrees. So, you know, if you wanted to turn 90 degrees or 180, you can. But with a DC motor, all you can do is apply power, basically. So if you apply ground one side and positive the other, it'll rotate one way. And if you do the opposite, so ground the other side and positive the first side, it will rotate the other way. So yeah, I guess the question you might ask is, how can you accurately steer with a DC motor then? And the answer is you can't really. So basically how this works is it rotates as far as it can and then rotates as far as it can and then reaches the end of the gear and basically just sits off it, and there's a spring that makes it pull back into place. So the motor will just rotate, and it'll reach the end of it, push away, and the spring will pull it back in, which will keep turning it until the motor stops turning, and it'll go back into, yeah. So it's pretty pretty simplistic, but I guess it works okay. And then yeah, same goes for the back. It's just a regular DC motor then, so if you want to make it go forward, you apply the positive voltage one way. If you want to make it go back, you apply the negative voltage the other. So, and as I was saying, this is what makes this car pretty nice for modifying, because here's the wire that goes to the controller. There is literally 4 cables in it, 2 for the steering motor and 2 for the driving motor. So they are all we need to interface with in this car, and because we already have wires for them, we don't even need to do any soldering in the actual car. And I'll show you in a little bit, but the circuitry we need to do for this is actually pretty straightforward as well. So just before I go any further, as I said, I'm keeping an eye on the Twitch chat on my tablet, but I can't see the YouTube chat. There is no messages there, so feel free to say hi if you're on YouTube. So somebody asked on Reddit what car I'd be using, and I bought it in a shop that's in Ireland called Smith's. It's also in the UK as well, but I don't think it's actually too important what kind of car you get, because they're nearly all hey thirsty, I think they're all nearly the same. So if you just wait 2 seconds, I have a couple of other cars just to show you that. And again, I really need to stop I need to stop talking when my back is to the microphone. So I'll just move us up a tiny bit to give us a little bit more room. So that's that one. So a friend of mine actually had a final year project where he was doing something similar to this. It was actually mind control driving the car. I don't know exactly how well it worked out, but there was this headset that you could get that could kind of read brain waves, and he was trying to use that to control the car. No idea how it worked out for him. I don't think he could, like, you know, use Jedi mind powers to drive the car, but I think it did send enough impulses to do something. So this is just a motor shield from SparkFun for an Arduino Uno, but again you can see there's a DC motor on the back, and it's the same kind of spring at the front as well. So actually the DC motor has been taken out of the front. I don't know if you can see that, but there should be a DC motor in there. So okay, it's a good thing I didn't try build it using this one. And then much cooler looking DeLorean that I found when I was clearing out my mom's garage the other day. So again, so this one isn't you know, wired control. This is remote control. So there's the circuit for that, and yeah, so there's a regular DC motor for the steering, and we can actually see a little bit better here how it works if we just want to zoom in. Let me just get this a little bit more focused. Yeah, so basically the car, or the motor, will steer it pretty much as far as it can go, and then it can't steer any further than that now. So and the spring should bring it back into place. So it's a bit loose now because I took a cap off it to show you what this one was. Now let's bring us back out again. A little bit further out. Drew said he needs that car and it has his initials on it. Yeah, I bought this a long time ago, and I bought it mainly as an ornament. I don't remember ever really using it. There was batteries in it, so I must have used it at some stage, but I don't know where the remote is now. And then at the back, I don't know if you can see it, but there's just a regular DC motor at the back as well. So I think if you want to do this project yourself, the type of car you need probably isn't that important, because all the kind of lower end ones are probably the same. But one thing I would say again though is what makes this one nice is how big it is. Like it's a lot bigger than the DeLorean one. You know, you can fit the entire case on top of it, and that makes it a lot easier to fit what we need to fit into it without having to try too hard. So you mightn't notice, but I'm pretty sure that the DeLorean was actually designed in Ireland and manufactured in Belfast. Maybe that's why they're so unreliable, I've been told. But yeah, they don't make them anymore. But that's an interesting, useless fact for you. I don't think there's too many cars made in Ireland, or was ever made in Ireland. I've lost a spring here, so I better be careful putting that back together. So yeah, we won't be working on the DeLorean. Main reason being, again, was the size thing. So we'll be using this, and I'll explain what it is now in a minute, but like, yeah, you'd probably be able to fit it in, but not, you know, at a push maybe. There's a big enough heatsink on it, so we won't be doing that. Okay, so the last time I did a stream, I didn't really explain a huge amount what I was doing in terms of what each of the components were that I was using, and I was nearly expecting people to be familiar with the different devices, but this time I think it would be better, especially if there's people who aren't familiar with them, just to go over them. So this is going to be the star of our show. This is a Esp8266 baseboard. This one is a Wemos D1 Mini. So it's just a type of Esp8266 based development board, and so this one is actually my favorite one because of its size. It fits in a standard size breadboard with admittedly only one row of pins either side, but it's enough that like you can use it in a breadboard, while a lot of them are too wide. The other thing I like about it is I see a lot of people when they're using Esp8266s using what's known as the ESP01, and what that is, I can show you. Actually, I probably have one. Yeah, so that's this one. So this isn't particularly breadboard friendly either. So it has the same core chip on it, so they can do the same things, but you know, as you can see, this one only has 8 pins, and you know, some of them are ground and power, and so I think there's only actually 2 usable GPIO pins on this. And yeah, it also doesn't have a built-in programmer or voltage regulator, so you need to kind of provide your own of them, while something like a development board has, you know, it has a built-in programmer and it has a voltage regulator, so you can power it directly off the micro USB cable. Yeah, so I recommend, if you're starting with ESP8266s, that these type ones, a development board, whether it's the Wemos D1 Mini, a Feather Huzzah, a Node MCU is another pretty popular one. I'm not the biggest fan of this because it's too wide for breadboards. So it fits in a breadboard, but with no pins spare. So I don't know if you can see that. So it basically doesn't fit in a breadboard. You'd need to get 2 breadboards and put them beside each other to use them. One thing that is quite useful about them though is that if you can't solder, they come pre-soldered, most of them. So that is useful, but it has some other challenges because you can't put it in a breadboard. And while the Wemos D1 Minis, you do need to solder them, and we'll be doing that actually as well, just to show you how easy it is to do. Yeah, so you can pick these up on AliExpress, and they're actually really cheap. The Node MCU board is about $3. An official Wemos D1 Mini is about $4 plus a little bit of shipping. And but like a clone Wemos D1 Mini, which is the same, it's the same size and kind of form factor, has all the same features, you can get for maybe about like $2.60 delivered, which is pretty incredible if you ask me. And I've had a lot of luck with the clone ones. I've seen some people say that they aren't as reliable, but I literally haven't had one cause me any problems, and I've bought a lot of them. I actually need to restock again because I've kind of burnt through them from different projects, but literally every one I've bought so far still works. And Thirsty AF has said, are they all programmable with the Arduino IDE? Yes, they are. I only use the Arduino IDE with them. So I'm actually in the middle of working on a video, just how to get up started with these. I have the video pretty much recorded, I just need to talk over it. But it's pretty simple to get it working with the Arduino IDE. Once you have the Arduino IDE downloaded, there is a small bit of instructions to get the Esp8266 libraries installed. I can actually show you when I go to my desktop kind of how easy that is. And then yeah, once you have that done and you have drivers installed on your computer, you can just program it like any other Arduino board. So if you've used kind of clone Arduinos already, like the cheaper ones from China, like an Arduino Uno and stuff like that, they nearly all use the same USB to serial chip. So if you've already used clone ones, you probably won't even need to install drivers. But if you haven't, you might need to install the drivers. But again, that's not a big deal. So yeah, Thirsty AF. It's kind of funny, I know what the AF stands for, but I shouldn't be saying it on stream. But yeah, so I will be doing it with the Arduino IDE. So yeah, it's really nice. And the best thing about the Arduino IDE, I think, is people have written a lot of libraries for them. So there's a lot of functionality you can get with these, like, really easily, in terms of, like, say I have a library for getting your YouTuber subscriber count as one, but then there's loads of different libraries for loads of different things. And yeah, it's really nice actually. So they're by far my favorite Arduino board. Like, some people would have kind of like a decision matrix of like what board they're going to use for a project. My decision matrix is more like, why shouldn't I use an Esp8266? Because they're very powerful, they're very small, and they are very cheap as well. And they have built-in Wi-Fi, which is amazing for $3 if you ask me. So Taka9 on Twitch has asked, have I tried Platform.io? I have tried Platform.io. So what Platform.io is it's an editor that runs, sorry, it's not an editor, it's a library, I guess. Cylon, Platform.io and Cylon is pretty nice. I haven't used Cylon. So what Platform.io is, it's a tool, I guess, that a plugin for the Atom IDE, or Atom editor, which allows you to program boards including Arduinos and ESP8266s and other ones as well. The main advantage of it is it's a command line interface. Actually, I've only ever used it through Atom, but yeah, I guess I have been using the command line inside Atom. Its main advantage is that the Arduino IDE is pretty old in terms of what features it offers you. Like, it's, you know, modern IDEs would give you suggestions if you know, as you're typing, it would show you errors before you compile. You know, like, for example, it's kind of weird that if you say misspell a variable, that the Arduino IDE doesn't tell you until you hit the compile button or the upload button. You know, it should underline it like nearly every IDE does, but that would be the main advantage of it. It does take a little bit of setting up. I wouldn't say it's as easy to use as the Arduino IDE. I haven't moved over to it as my main one. I keep planning to, but I just haven't yet. I don't have it set up on my PC either, so I can't show it to you today. I do use it on my Mac. Yeah, so that is an Esp8266, and then the other thing that we'll be using is an L298N H-bridge motor driver. So basically, the pins of any Arduino can't provide enough current. So like if you're lighting up an LED, you'd set one of these pins to high, say D4 in this, for example. You set D4 to high and it lights up the LED because it brings up the, it should be going that way, brings up the voltage on the pin to 3.3 volts in this case. But it doesn't provide a lot of current. It only, I think the ESPs provide about 30 milliamps. The Arduino might provide 40 milliamps. Both of those, if you're not too familiar with how much power that is very small. It powers an LED and not a huge amount else. So when you want to power a motor, you need to kind of use that small current or voltage to enable a larger current or voltage to work. And I'll get just a page to explain this a bit better. So you might have seen it with LED strips. So I amn't good with the pin layouts of different things, but so with an LED strip you might use something like a transistor or a MOSFET to turn on. That's my beautiful MOSFET. It's actually not too bad. What you would use then is basically you would use the pin of the Arduino. I'm not sure which one connects to which, but we'll say that goes back to the Arduino to connect the other two of them together. So you might have 12 volts coming in on this, and when the Arduino pin is high, it will connect out the 12 volts to that. Let me just pull up actually what that would be. So MOSFET has a switch, LED strip. So somebody here has done it for us. So can we get in a bit bigger? Yeah. So basically they have the pin on, oh actually it did have it wired right, amazing. Yeah, so they have the pin of the Arduino programmed into one of the legs of the MOSFETs, and then when that is high it will connect the other two pins together basically. So that is a way of using low voltage or current to drive a higher voltage or current, and so that's perfectly fine for. We could even use a MOSFET to power the motor, but do you remember we were talking about that a regular DC motor? Oh, that's bad. If you power, say, 5 volts this side and 0 that side, it'll rotate clockwise, for example, and then if we do the opposite, let me pull you down a small bit. If we do the opposite, it would rotate the opposite direction. So we would need to, like, that wouldn't cover us anymore. For the LED strip example, you're just controlling the 12 volts or the ground, whichever. It's actually done based on what type of a MOSFET that is, if it's an N channel or a P channel. Basically, I find the best way of figuring out this stuff is if you're looking to control a LED strip and basically Google turn on and off an LED strip with an Arduino, and you'll get examples like I showed there. Yeah, so it like that's fine when you definitely know that you want 12 volts on one side and 0 on the other, but with a motor you need 2 different stages. Well, you need 3 as well, because you need to provide 0, 0 to turn it off. But yeah, so one MOSFET won't cut it. So a H-bridge is actually, I think it's basically 2 MOSFETs, but this provides this actually has 4 MOSFETs because it has 2 outputs. So this provides a way of using these pins here. These pins are connected to the Arduino pins, and they control basically the output. So this output will be connected to the drive motor, and if you set one of your pins high and the other pin low, it'll pass out current, and then it'll pass out the higher voltage to the motor. And then if you do the other way around, so set one pin low and the other pin high, it'll do the opposite. Taka asked a question: what if you provide the motor +5 and +2 volts? I'm not actually too sure what you mean. Is in if you provided here 2 volts, is it? There'll be a little bit of a delay, so whenever you see my effort at answering that question. Okay, cool. What that would do is basically these voltage works as a potential difference. So if you put 5 volts here and 2 volts here, it would be the same as putting 3 volts on one side and 0 volts on the other. So it would just be lower voltage if you put +2 on this. The same way that if you put +5 on both sides, it wouldn't do anything. It'd be as if you applied 0 on both sides, because the potential difference is going to be 0 volts if it's 5 volts on both sides. Oops, my tablet has gone asleep. Oh, it's back up. So hopefully that answers your question, Taka9. Let me just check YouTube if there's any questions. Oh, I have a smaller Esp8266 to play with. So I'm not sure when that question was asked, Diego, so sorry, but if it's this this one here, yeah, as I mentioned, I do like these because of how small and cheap they are, but I think unless you specifically need one that's this small, or you're looking to make something, a lot of something, and you only need 1 or 2 pins, I would use a regular development board. And just like another thing, I made a video on these recently enough, and one thing I noted on the video is it isn't actually that much smaller than a Wemos D1 Mini. It's maybe about half the size, so it's not a huge amount smaller, but it is a bit smaller, and it is a small bit cheaper too. So but yeah, as I said, unless you specifically want one of these, I would definitely start with a development board. I just think you're making it harder on yourself to work with one of these. Okay, so yeah, that's what this guy is. So you can provide a higher voltage. I think it takes from like 4 volts up to 30 volts or something, and you can use the Arduino to control if it lets those higher voltages out to the motor or not. And another nice thing I found with this is it has a built-in 5-volt voltage regulator. So we will be able to power the Esp8266 from one source as well. So I have a battery pack that I'm going to use to power this project. So I'm going to provide the battery pack, which is about 9 volts, I think, in here. And I thought maybe I'd have to provide a separate power supply for for the ESP8266, or maybe take like its AA battery pack. One thing that's possible to do, and actually this car does it, is that if you break away from it earlier, actually it's easier to see with the car. So this is the car controller. It has 4 AA batteries. AA battery is about 1.5 volts each, so 4 would be 6 volts. But what they've done here is, so they've ground coming out from the first battery, and they have after the third battery, that's my Irish accent, they have a positive line coming out of it, so that would only be 4.5 volts. And then after the fourth battery, they have another positive line coming out, so that would be 6 volts. So I was thinking maybe I'd have to do something like that, but reading online, this has a built-in voltage regulator, so when we put whatever a higher voltage through this, we have a 5 volt out pin, so we can use that to power the ESP8266. So Drew in the chat was, those plug-in standalone modules are really good for I'm adding ESP to something else. If you're starting from scratch, a dev board makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I think that is probably a good point. I even think though that maybe even if you're adding it to something else, like say a standard Arduino Uno, maybe there is something to be said about having just a regular dev board, especially if the price difference between D1 clone and one of these is maybe like 50 cents, maybe $1. So like, it's just that it's easier to work with in a breadboard. Like if you want to put this in a breadboard, you need to either buy or build a special adapter or use the plug-in wires. Mr. Pepperoni on Twitch, hey, said, I was just about to ask if you were Irish. Yes, I am Irish, and my pronunciation of third will always identify me more than any passport could. Yeah, I get a lot of I don't know what the right word, insulting or slagging would be the Irish way of saying it, for how I pronounce third. So I sometimes in my videos I really focus on that. Third as much as I can. But there was one video on logic level shifters that I did, which had me saying 3.3 a lot, but I obviously wasn't concentrating too much, because the first comment on YouTube was tree spelt TREE. So yeah, that is my Irish accent coming out. So yeah, so really they are the two main things we need for this project: an ESP8266 and a motor driver, the H-Bridge L2898N. If I was taking my time and doing this project slowly, I might salvage the battery pack from the controller, like Dremel it out or whatever. I amn't going to now because it'd be too messy and slow. And also, you can buy battery packs off AliExpress for less than $1 delivered. So this is a 6 AA one, which, yeah, I have with 5 batteries in at the moment. I'm just yeah, so I have 5 batteries in at the moment, just basically acting as a switch because I didn't want to potentially cross them. Another couple of options you could have done for powering this project is there's kind of standard RC batteries. Something more like this, which is, you know, it's 7.4 volts, which is a nice kind of voltage size for this project, I would say. But there is some added complexity with using, this is a lithium ion battery, and you need to worry about you can't let them run too low on voltage, or you potentially damage the cells. So it would add extra, logic at least, or circuitry to worry about that. So that's why I decided to go with the AA. Now the AA's are a lot heavier than this is, so probably won't be winning any races with with the car. So if you do want to win races, a lithium-ion battery is a much better power to density ratio than standard alkaline, or whatever the rechargeable ones are. I can never remember. Nickel nitride? Can't remember. NIMH, whatever that stands for. So because and the other thing you could use is like a power bank of some description. So it'd be 5 volts out, which would probably be enough. Also, that has lithium ion in it, but it has the battery, like the undervoltage protection, already built in. So that would be probably a fairly nice option too, but I'm just going to go with the Blaze. So this is a 6-cell pack. So normally with a 6-cell pack you'd have 1.5 volts. So that is, oh, my maths are bad. So that's 3 volts by 3. So that's 9 volts. 3 volts by 3. That's 9 volts. But not a commonly known thing, I don't think, is that the rechargeable battery, sorry, my head is in the way. The rechargeable batteries aren't actually 1.5 volts, they're 1.2. So if we're going by 6 by 1.2, that was 9 volts. 6.1.2 is, doing maths under pressure, 2.4 by 3 is 12, and so it's 7.2, is it? So yeah, this will be the same as the battery voltage, but it should be fine, whatever we use it for anyways. Drew on Twitch, well, with a last name like it'd be interesting to, well, I said it at the start, how would you pronounce Lough if I didn't say what my name was at the start? I pronounce it lock, like lock the door. English is a funny language like that, I guess. It could be luff or low, and I don't think you could complain with anybody. I never understand when people get like offended by like pronouncing someone's name wrong. Like I don't know. If somebody called me Loff, I mightn't even correct them if it wasn't going to be an ongoing relationship. So yeah, I don't know, I always find it strange. So we have a battery pack, we have the motor driver, and we have a Wemos, and that's it. We'll need a couple of extra things to make it a small bit tidier for us. We might want to add a switch to our battery pack. Oops. We might want to add a switch to our battery pack so we don't need to pull out a battery to turn it off, and we might also want to put this on perf board to make it a little bit neater and tidier, but that's about it. Okay, so let's just check YouTube chat. Own it, man, your accent is awesome. Thanks, Wheatbix Iron, I think. Irish is weird. Chucky becomes, yeah, that's weird. That so Mr. Pepperoni on Twitch said Irish is weird, and then spelled out an Irish word, and he said it becomes Chucky. But as soon as I read it, I already knew that it became Chucky, so I was just reading it as I would say it. See, I get to cheat because I'm a Mac MC. Oh, you must have some either Irish or Scottish heritage, Drew. Okay, well, welcome to the 3 people on YouTube watching and the 10 viewers on Twitch. Okay, so let's get started with this. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to solder up we're going to solder pins onto our clone Wemos D1 Mini. So another thing I really like about the Wemos D1 Minis and their clones is they come with a choice of headers. Let's bring this down a little bit closer. So it comes with male headers, female headers, and then also, I don't know what you call these ones, dual headers. Like, what's useful about these ones is, you know, they've got the male header at the bottom, but they still have female headers at the top. Isn't it forbidden to stream simultaneously on Twitch and YouTube from Taka9? I don't think so. I'm using a service called Restream.io, and what that does is basically I'm streaming to Restream.io, and they are streaming to Twitch and YouTube on my behalf. Yeah, so Mr. Pepperoni in the chat said only if you're partnered. Yeah, I'm not partnered with either of those people. I think it's Twitch that has the partnership. I think I have like 7 followers on Twitch, so I'm a little bit away from partnership just yet. But actually, one thing that you can use these ones for that's pretty useful is this ESP01. Remember I was saying you might need to build yourself a breadboard adapter? You can build one using these, so you can just bend the pins out to fit them into 10 followers now. Thank you for whoever followed. You can bend the pins out to fit them into the breadboard, so pretty useful. I have a component drawer absolutely filled with these. I mainly use the male ones. Second, use the female ones. I very rarely use these, so I have loads of these. So if anybody's in Ireland and needs some of these, I'll gladly send some along. Okay, what we are going to do though is I'm going to use the male pins, and we're going to put them on this, which is perf board. I think is what you call it. Maybe proto board is another thing. So this is the one. This is the type of one that has just dots underneath it. You can also get ones that have strips on it. The ones with strips were the ones I would have used in college. I did electronic and computer engineering in college, which would make you think that I'd know more about this sort of stuff, but I did that 10 years ago and I wasn't really interested in electronics at the time. I'm a software developer now, so I'm slowly getting back into the electronic side of things, just as a hobby. But they're much harder to come by online, so I've started to use these now. So basically, they're a good way of putting together a project, you know. So it's great starting off in a breadboard, but when you have something that you want more permanent, you might use something like this. Then the next stage after this would be designing your own PCB and putting the components on that. At that stage, you probably wouldn't be using development boards. You'd be buying this Esp8266 module and soldering it directly onto your board, and then whatever you needed would be built into your circuit. So what I like to do is I like to put the male pins onto the board, so a bit like that, and then I like to put the female pins into the proto board, and what that gives you is a type of a socket for your ESP8266. So, you know, if say magic smoke came out of it or anything, you just wanted to debug whether this problem with, say, your thing running was your circuit or your board, it gives you an easy way of pulling it out, because it's not fun desoldering something like this from a circuit board, and it came with these pins anyways, so you may as well use them. So yeah, the same things are available for Feder Huzzah as well. They're an extra kit. I think they're only $1 or $2. I'd also recommend for basically any project, if you're putting it into these perf board, to do a socket wherever possible, unless it's something like, you know, LEDs or a transistor or whatever. You know, they're cheap, it doesn't matter. They're probably easy to unsolder, and you know, so they're easily replaceable or whatever. I would recommend putting the female pins in. Drew, I need to buy a stack of perma-protas the next time I have money to throw at Lamore. Lamore being Lady Ada. So Adafruit sell these type ones too. They're a little bit bigger than this actually, as far as I know. I'm not sure which way they're bigger, but a small bit bigger. But they also sell like really nice looking ones that look like a breadboard, and they have lines down the same way as a breadboard. Like they're even white. So they have the lines connected the same way as a breadboard, so you can literally transfer your thing from one to another. So okay, let's talking more soldering. Well, hopefully I can talk and solder at the one time. Again, we'll be using my Drew the Ogre. Put a link into the chat. Is that for those perma-protas, or the ones like this? Tuladar, the kids. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. How long have you been working on hardware stuff like this for? I have been working with Arduino stuff about 18 months, a little bit less maybe. I took unpaid leave from work to work on side projects last year, starting April, finishing at the end of June, and I was working mainly on like websites and stuff, but towards the end I had picked up an Esp8266 off the recommendation of somebody on Reddit. Basically, I was waiting for Raspberry Pi Zero, and somebody was saying that I've given up waiting so long for Raspberry Pi Zero that I figured out what I actually really wanted was an Esp8266, and I was like, ooh, they look pretty cool, and I bought one. And then just in the last couple of weeks of that time off, I spent some time learning how to use my 3D printer and also doing a little bit of Arduino, and I've been pretty hooked on it since. As I mentioned, I wasn't a beginner coming into it. I hadn't done any Arduino stuff in college. I'm not even sure if it existed when I was in college. I think it would have just about. But I had done, you know, some microcontroller programming. I'd done some hardware, so I had a little bit of a head start. But it is a really good thing to get into in terms of, like, there's so many tutorials online. You know, and like beginners guides, and like, as I mentioned, say like I didn't know the exact pins for this. You can just Google stuff, and there's so much documentation on it. It's really cool. So if you're interested in getting into it, I would definitely recommend. It is aspiration of mine to write to make video guides on the Esp8266. I've already started making videos on them, but to actually do a beginner's tutorial for them, where, you know, you'd cover one sort of Arduino-y type thing, like say blinking an LED, and then you would, in the same video, show how you would control that LED using a web interface, and then maybe the next video would be how can you use a screen, and then maybe how do you integrate with Twitter to show that screen, or you know, show a tweet, or how many Twitter followers you have on the screen, or something like that. So yeah, so Develutiest, I don't know how to pronounce any of your names, I'm sorry. Wow, that soldering iron looks fancy. So yep, this is I think people tune in for the soldering iron more than me. This is a TS100. It is an open source soldering iron. It has loads of fancy features on it, such as it has an accelerometer in it. So if it detects that it hasn't been moving for a while, it goes into like low powered state and stuff like that. I do really recommend it. It's really nice. One thing to watch out for though is it doesn't come with a power supply. You need to buy one specifically, or if you have one at home, it's a pretty standard laptop head. But yeah, I just bought one, you know, so I knew I had one that fitted it or whatever. So let's get it powered on. Does it run Doom? Mr. Pepperoni. I don't think it runs Doom, but I did see that somebody released, like, it can be upgraded. There's a micro USB cable or port on it. It can it can be upgraded. So somebody made a game for it where you hold it here and you play Tetris on it, and every time you know, a row goes up, it makes the iron hotter. So actually, yeah, the Velutist mentioned that as well. Yeah, I've never tried that now, but that is something I can do. So one really nice thing about it is how fast it turns on. So I'm just gonna power it up there. I just need to leave it alone. So I'm going up to 370, and as you can see here, it's just shooting up. Like, this is way faster than any of my desktop ones. The biggest recommendation, or the biggest kind of thing I can say about it, is I recently put away my desktop iron. It was a Heiko clone, but I don't see the need for it anymore with the TS100. And yep, people in the chat saying that it's fast. It is very fast, yeah, and yeah, highly recommend it. So let's solder up some pins. So I find the easiest way of doing it is to use a breadboard. So it does take some heat away from the pins. Is it able to show wattage? I'm not sure actually. Should be okay. I'm not sure. I haven't played around with it too much. There's also some custom firmware for it that has some extra bits of information on it. So maybe that one can. I'm not too sure though, to be honest. Thirsty SAF, I keep going to say your name. Yes, I am planning to do the whole project on this stream, including the software and the web interface. Maybe that's ambitious. I hope not. So yeah, so we're gonna get soldering. Let's bring you in nice and close so you can see my terrible soldering. I shouldn't be holding a soldering iron like this. Let's see, focus. There we go. Cool. Yep. So it won't be like a completely polished project. I'm just hoping to have it working. Would be my goal for this. So I'm just going to do the outer pins first. So 5 volts. TX, the 3.3, and reset. I really should have. Oh, I forgot to take my sponge out. There it is. Luckily, I use one of these. Where are you? Type 1s. I think it is kind of harder on soldering iron heads, but it's just nice to not have. To get water for the sponge. So yeah, this is going pretty good so far. Let me get rid of that webcam control software. that you couldn't see. So I don't have enough solder on this 3.3 volt pin. Ooh, this might be a good time to show off another feature that I have. Let me put this down. And oh, I thought I added a scene for this. I'm just gonna do it now. Macro. That name is already in use. Yeah, I knew it was, but oh no. Office with macro. Okay. Just 2 seconds. Sorry. Non-existing macro. Okay, cool. So I have macro camera. So I'll show you this now in 2 seconds. But as you can see there, I don't have enough solder on the 3.3 volt pin. One side of it's soldered fine, and the other isn't. So let me show you what that macro is now. It's let's see here. It is a cheap macro lens for a mobile phone. They're like $2 on AliExpress, and then it's blue tacked to a Xbox 360 camera that I bought for like $2 secondhand somewhere. So it actually works pretty good. I highly recommend it. It actually, those macro lenses are really good for the price of them. Like, you can get some nice shots with a decent phone with them. So yeah, back to at hand here. Okay, so the velutist. Every time I'm soldering SMDs to anything, I solder everything together. I haven't done any SMD soldering yet. I imagine I will also solder everything together when I do it too. I do have a tendency to get kind of quiet when I'm soldering. I've noticed when I'm recording videos or whatever. So if I do, let me know in the chat, and I'm sorry in advance. My so-called project immediately turns into solder silicon golem covered with flux from top to bottom. Although I haven't done SMD, I've been there too. You kind of get down a rabbit hole of, okay, I'll fix it, and when you're frustrated and you keep going with it, even though you really should take a break and calm yourself down and then finish it off. But no, I am the exact same. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is a fancy soldering iron, but you do not need a fancy soldering iron for this soldering. This is easy soldering. I know, easy when you know how, but oh, sorry, I'm covering. You should be giving out to me in chat for covering the camera or the board with my head. Yeah, this is easy soldering, and you know, it's a cheap board too. So like, I would recommend trying it out. Just the key is to put the iron against the pin coming through as well as the pad and let them heat up, and then feed in your little bit of solder. So that's that one. Ooh, D5 is terrible. Which is down here. You probably can't see it, so I'll just pretend that it's really good. It probably would work fine, but it's not flowed the whole way around. Yeah, so that's better, and the rest of them look fine. Okay, just really the velutist. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He said that you should really take a break and throw it in the trash bin and start all over again. Yep, that happens. Ugh, okay. These cheap Chinese breadboards, I was talking about them in the last stream. Some of them you can get are absolutely terrible. That you know, the pins are not a bit straight in them at all, so it's hard to push them in. Okay, so that's this guy soldered, and he is looking fine. So now he's fitting into this, but as I mentioned, I want to put female headers on them. So I find the easiest way of doing this is to just put the female headers on, put it into the board. So it will raise it up off the board a bit. That's either a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. You also have this room under here if there's some circuitry that you need to use. Now we're going to go get my favorite soldering aid. If you watched the last stream, you'll know what it is. It's blue tack. This blue sticky stuff. It's kind of moldable. Somebody mentioned when I said that I liked doing it before that it's a Julian Eilert thing. Didn't know that it was. I'm not sure where I picked it up from. Possibly from him. I don't watch his videos too much, but I definitely would have seen them. Wheat bricks, and I'm sorry that I have got it so long to get back to you on this one. I just got an ESP delivered, but I'm waiting on a micro USB cable. Do you know if it's possible to go straight over the air updates via Wi-Fi? I haven't played around with OTA much, which is the over the air. I know that it's not possible though. Like, you need to the sketch that is on your the sketch that's on your Esp8266 needs to be aware of OTA, basically, that there needs to be some way of it getting into the OTA kind of code, basically. Oh, I didn't do a great job of that. Yeah, that'll work. So make sure that your pins are fully true, and put our blue tack, so just heat it up a small bit. So yep, blue tack goes against that. It's just to hold it in place against the board. So yep, we have this here now. So I am again gonna solder some here. I'm not gonna solder all these pins in just yet because I find it easier to do that when we are soldering the wires to them. So like if we need to solder wires to, say, this middle pin here, it's easier to solder the pin after the wire is there. I'll show you what I mean by that later on. I'm a bit far away from the desk. So I'm just going to solder the outer ones. So again, same as before. Oh, I'm off balance. Do I have, oh yes, do I have anything to hold it in place? Of course I do have a big thing of blue tack. Soldering iron, it's rolling away there. So again, I'm just gonna blue tack solves all the problems. Let me get rid of this paper. Oh, maybe the paper is nice to as a background because the desk is kind of shiny. It's probably okay. I'll use this maybe. Yeah. So I'm gonna use this ESP as a little stand. Okay. Sorry about that, Wheat Bix iron. It is just a standard micro USB cable, so if you have an old phone or anything, that could work for you. It is also possible to program them using an Arduino Uno. I'm not exactly sure how you would go about it, but basically, like you can program these ones using an Arduino Uno, and these ones, or the Wemos D1 Minis, as I mentioned, are pretty much the same. So like if you wired up how you program this one with an Arduino Uno with you know, the TX and RX of this one, it could be possible to do it that way. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. I don't know if you'll find too many examples of people doing that, but maybe worth a look. Okay, back to the soldering. It's 8:10 in Irish time. I probably need to get a move on to if I want to get this done. But it's not time wasted if you're having fun. Oh, I really need to get an extractor fan. So I'll just do one in the middle then, on each side as well. Sorry, I was talking too quiet there. Go away. I've seen a setup using an ESP82. It's funny, you didn't write ESP, but as soon as I saw the numbers 8266, it was in my head ESP as a programmer for other boards. Yeah, the you know, the USB to serial converter. Yeah, it's just a way of converting your USB to a serial data connection, and seeing as these Arduinos can do serial from them, you know, there's no reason why they can't be used to program other boards or whatever. One thing actually I saw before, it was a YouTuber, I can't think of his name, but he uses a Node MCU as a programmer for this, and it's actually a nice feature. He's basically using, there's a chip enable on the Node MCU, and he basically uses that to disable this chip, and you know, he then connects this up to the TX and RX of this one. So he's using the onboard serial converter of this one, and disables this one using the chip enable pin, and programs that instead. It's a pretty clever idea, I thought. Just actually, before I go any further, I do have where is it? Shopping cart, or I don't know what AliExpress call it. Public wish list of the parts that is needed for this. So I'll put that in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat. Oh, I can't, even though I own the chat, I can't put in links into the YouTube chat. That's interesting. Can I edit the... Okay, I'll put it in the description of the YouTube chat, or video. Hopefully that worked out okay. Yep, it's in the chat there. Okay, somebody on YouTube, I can't pronounce your first name, Mahuldamit Gaming. Hey guys, I have a question. How to avoid hard coding Wi-Fi credentials Node MCU when using Blink? You should look at a library called Wi-Fi Manager. I have videos on Wi-Fi Manager. It basically, it's a library that avoids hard coding the credentials into the code, and it will create an access point for you to connect to if it is unable to connect to the last known Wi-Fi credentials. I would be very surprised if somebody doesn't have an example of how to get Blink working with Wi-Fi Manager. I'd say it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, you should look up that. So it's by a guy called Zapu, Tzapu, or something like that. So check that out. So yeah, a nice feature of my soldering iron is it's going quiet, or it's cooling down at the moment. It's dropping down to 200 degrees. Don't know if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius. Somebody asked already. or in the last stream, and because I haven't moved it. So yeah, we got what we wanted to achieve out of this. We have this soldered into the board now, and we have a nice little socket that if something went wrong with our board, we can fairly easily separate them and plug it back in if needed. Is the key transmitted encrypted with Wi-Fi Manager? What Wi-Fi Manager does is basically it does the ESP saves your last known Wi-Fi credentials into EEPROM when you do Wi-Fi.begin, and what the Wi-Fi Manager does basically is tries to connect using that, and if it fails, it hosts its own access point. I don't think that's particularly secure. I don't know if it does HTTPS for like the web host of that, but if you put a password on the access point that it launches, I guess it makes it a little bit more secure, but I guess how secure that is, I'm not too sure. I guess use with your own risk. I have a video on a library called Double Reset Detector, which basically, if you double press the reset button, it like enables a flag that does something else. So that's a useful way of going into the configuration mode without just, you know, failing to connect. Somebody asked, do I think Wi-Fi Manager is a good idea for a startup to use? For a consumer product, you need to do something like Wi-Fi Manager. 100%. I don't know if you need to use actual Wi-Fi Manager. You'll have to look into that. But you need a way that your end consumer could program, or sorry, could enter in their credentials without programming. So Wi-Fi Manager or something like that is the way to go. Thank you for the question. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to power up this board off the voltage regulator of the motor driver. So what I'm going to use for that is screw terminals like these ones, but here. So yep, these little guys, little screw terminals. So I'm just gonna put them down here. Drew, I'm shopping on AliExpress. My wallet is judging you very harshly. Yep, that's how AliExpress works. But the one nice thing about it is how cheap it is, so, you know, could be worse. And Thirsty AF is as well. Yeah, you can, like, the price of things on AliExpress is insane, how cheap it is. But, like, if you buy enough of something, it all adds up. Incredible, though. I don't know how it works. Like, in Ireland, it costs me €1 to post a letter, just a standard one. So if I wanted to post a letter to my neighbor, it would be €1. But I can buy some things off AliExpress for less than that, delivered from China, and the same postman is delivering the thing through the letterbox. So I have just no idea how that works. But okay, so let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm adding a screw terminal beside the there's no motor on my wish list. There isn't any motors on my wish list. I assume that they come with the car, but good point. Am I dealing with Royal Mail? We use something called An Post, which is Irish for the post. So yep, that's what we're doing with that. Yeah, so screw terminals, I'm putting it beside the 5 volt and ground pin. So this is actually useful piece of information, that the 5-volt pin is actually the same as kind of the same as the 5-volt for the micro USB. So you can power this 5-volt pin will go through the 3.3-volt regulator to power the Esp8266. If you were to measure the voltage across the 5-volt pin, it'll actually be something like 4.7. That is because there's a diode between the if you were to measure the voltage across 5 volts and ground when you plugged into the micro USB, that would be because there's a diode between the micro USB and the 5-volt pin to stop. I think basically, like, it, you know, we're powering this from, or we're putting power on the 5-volt pin now, and it would basically defend the micro USB cable. You know, a diode only lets current flow one way, so it'll only let it go from the micro USB to the 5-volt pin. It won't let it go from the 5-volt pin to the micro USB. So what we're going to do is we're going to power the project using the 5-volt pin and the ground pin. So yep, let's solder this in here. Wakey soldering iron. Okay, I must have went properly asleep. So powering on again, and again super fast. So I've just put a little bit of blue tack on there as per usual. So I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on that. Maybe I won't actually, because I need to put a wire. Where am I? So I'm just using, I could maybe bridge it with solder. It's a little bit far for that though, so I'm just going to use standard core wire. 1 second. Get my wire strippers and my snips. I am able to go on a little bit past 8 o'clock, but I don't know if I'll get the project done before 8, but yeah, we should definitely get it finished this evening, so hopefully people can stay around or they don't have things on. So I'm just gonna strip a long piece off this. Come off. Okay. The side opposite to what I wanted came off, but that's fine. So I'm just going to probably burn my hand here, but so I'm just going to put the wire across the 2 pins. Hopefully you can see that okay. I need to get my blue tack. I want those wire strippers. They're actually pretty cheap. I bought it off Amazon.co.uk for like £10. Definitely not expensive. I saw Hokazusa, I can never pronounce his name, on the Adafruit Discord as well, had the same ones. I think he got them from Amazon.com as well, and I think Noe has the same ones. The 3D Printing Ruiz Brothers has the same ones as well, so they're pretty common and yeah, pretty cheap too. So I just wanted to put it in there. Probably fine. Get a little bit of solder here and finish it off. I'm doing a terrible job. There we go. Much better. Just put a tiny bit more on this side now that it has a better connection in there. Okay, cool. Clean my tip. Put it back there. I'm going to move the car slightly away from my soldering iron. So yeah, I'm just going to use the regular snips to take that off. Those snips are like $2 on AliExpress, and I think they work really well. They're nice and springy and pretty sharp. It is a little bit damaged now at this stage, so I don't know how hard wearing they are, but you get what you pay for sometimes, but I'm happy with what I got for what I paid for that. Am I saving the streams on Twitch? Yes, I haven't not told it to do that, so the VODs should be available, and also if they're not, they're definitely on YouTube. So message me if they aren't. They should be, though. I don't see why not. I'm pretty sure the ones from last week are there. But thanks a lot for joining in. Hopefully you found it interesting. So I'm putting a bit of blue tack here to just hold the wire in place. Drew, I wish I could find LCDs like an old Palm device to use for stuff. Yeah, sometimes it's weird, kind of the screens that are available. I've used the Nokia screens from AliExpress. I thought they were pretty nice. They do need a potentiometer to control the backlight, because you do need to play around with that. Excuse me, a small bit. But I thought there's a nice kind of retro feel to them as well, because they look like a Nokia screen. I know they are a Nokia screen, but yeah, so Drew just mentioned that all 4 of the ones from last week, because I had to restart the stream a few times, are available on the VOD. So this one will be the same. Devolutist, thanks for checking that, Drew. I checked that I could program the Esp8266 before I started today, so hopefully we won't need to restart. Oh, come on. I positioned myself really terribly there. Oh, the nice thing about sticking it to the page is I can rotate the page even though the blue tack is stuck down. Ooh, it's terrible. No, that should be okay. Let's put a little bit more on the. I'll probably put a little bit too much solder on this, but it's fine. Will do. Yeah, so that should give us that done properly now. So we should have a way of powering the board from this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flash a Blink program onto this, and we'll test that it can be powered from the driver board's voltage regulator. Just as a sneak preview, hopefully it can, because it worked when I tried it earlier. I haven't built one of these cars before, but I did want to test that worked, because I would have had to, provide a different way of powering it. So, oh, wrong board. So I don't normally. You might want to check your connections. Have like hair there or something. Could be dog hair. Normally you might want to check your connections or whatever, but I don't think there's anything too wrong with that. So thanks for joining the Devolutist. Yeah, I would normally do the streams on a Saturday, but I was meant to go out for dinner with my sister who was home from London, but it kind of didn't in the end for whatever reason. Basically, it was going to be too late for my daughter, who was only 1, so we went home early. But yeah, so in future they'll more than likely be on Saturdays. So thanks for joining. Yeah, the VOD will be available later today, so hopefully you can catch up tomorrow. Right, so let's look at. Okay, I'm plugged in, so ooh, nice funky thing. So yeah, I tested it with a blink sketch earlier. So this is a fast blink. So we'll get my COM port 15, must be right. We'll do an upload. I'm uploading at 11.5200, which is kind of slow. You can pick a faster one. You can pick this 921-600. I find it works like 80% of the time in Windows for the Wemos D1 minis. It doesn't work at all on my Mac for some reason, but the Adafruit Feather Huzzah, yeah, Adafruit Feather Huzzah has a better man desk with me, a better USB to serial chip on it, and that I think it works more reliably. Like the difference is really fast, like isn't it's maybe like 30 seconds or 20 seconds to upload using that 11.5200, but that faster speed it could be like 5 seconds or whatever. Okay, so got a fast blink working here, all good. So let's plug out the micro USB cable. Let's grab our motor driver, grab our batteries. Let's move it up a bit because I'm running out of space. Let's focus E in. I tried autofocus the last day and it just was jumping around the place, so I'm manually focusing E. Okay, so we need to get my screwdriver. This one. I think I mentioned the last day that I've had this screwdriver for nearly 10 years. Oh, this is too big. I bought it off Deal Extreme about 10 years ago. Still serving me well. Oh, my tablet has gone to sleep, so I can't see your chats anymore. Okay. Right, so we'll change our head. Yeah, so we just want to unscrew this small bit. You don't want to unscrew them too much though, or the screw could fall out of them, which makes it kind of annoying to get back in. So I'm doing this without that battery connected still, just so like if there's any kind of short or whatever, it won't cause any problem. So I'm putting the, it's kind of hard to see for you maybe, but there is text at the back of this board here which says that this pin is 12 volts, this pin is ground, and this pin is 5 volts. There's also a jumper here, so basically if you have this jumper connected, it I'm pretty sure it passes the 12 volts in as these, but if you don't have that jumper connected, it passes the regulated 5 volts. And I know this says 12 volts, but it can be used for as I mentioned earlier, I think anything up to 30 volts. So yep. The autofocus gnome has been on the Guinness a bit too much. Possibly. Yeah, I don't know. I have a fairly expensive webcam. Like I have the Logitech 920 HD or whatever. You know, it's a good webcam, but that autofocus does not work well on it, I find. Okay, so for the for the for connections like this, I had been using solid core wire there. That's handy for like connections that aren't going to bend, but this is potentially going to bend. So stranded core is much better for this because there's a lot of strain if you're kind of moving around. Solid core wire, while the stranded core has that little bit of bend to it. So I am using trying to use a pen to get this out. I probably should be using something else, but come out. Yeah, I'm using these Adafruit hookup wire packs. So I have a stranded core and a solid core. When you have them opened and right, you have these nice little holes, but I didn't have the stranded core one open yet. So let's get ourselves a little bit. So we'll cut off that scrappy bit. Probably should have made that longer. Will I get away with it? No. So that's a nice bit of scrap wire. Okay. So let's get our fancy wire strippers. So you want to put the wire through here. You want the part that you want to get pulled away on the other side, so I'm putting it in wrong. So yeah, you put it in and you get a nice little strip away like that. I do find sometimes with stranded core wires that wire strippers break off a couple of the cores. We won't be using big current here, so it won't be too big of a deal if we lose some. Okay, so perfect. Now we will, just to give us more to screw into on our terminal block, we'll bend this back like that. And the same with this guy. Perfect. Now we need to do the same with the black wire. Yeah, wire is one thing that I don't find is particularly cheap on somewhere like AliExpress. Yeah, I haven't really found a great source of it. Some kind of decent places that you could maybe get wire though is something like I made that a little bit short too, but anyways, we'll use it. Something like Cat5 cable would have, you know, 8 strands of single core wire. That'd be pretty good. Maybe a little bit thin for using with breadboards and stuff, but just because it'd be loose in the breadboard, but probably a good source of single core for like projects or whatever. Wire strippers is doing a good job today. Let's keep my tablet alive. So again, twist it up, bend it back on itself. Yeah, how are we looking for time? 8:30. No problems. Okay. So let's move the battery pack over here. So we need to put the grounds in together. So it's a common ground between the 5 volt and the battery voltage. I don't have it unscrewed enough. Let's try it. Could strip a bit of the battery wire back, but and then kind of wrap them around each other. I might get rid of my bend. It's a bit thick for the battery connector with the other wire as well. So let's maybe kind of spin them together a tiny bit. Yeah, much better fit. So he's relatively connected. He's relatively connected, so we're looking good there. Now let's do the 5 volts. I guess this would be the main difference between making videos and streaming, that you wouldn't see any of this stuff on a video. It'd be magically edited out. I don't know if you can see that there. I have one little strand of wire coming out there. I'll get rid of him though. Then again, you wouldn't have the witty banter. So I need to just unscrew these. These are also on the list of stuff not really needed. Like, you could solder directly to this as well. There'd be no, you know, if you used solid, well, you could use any core wire you want. You could have soldered directly to these pins rather than putting in a screw terminal, but I just think it's probably a good option to have. He seems pretty good. He seems pretty good. Okay. Right, so I plan to put it like this. Yes, it's long enough for that. So now I just need my battery. Let's also just check on YouTube. You are absolutely welcome, Muldemish Gaming. Hopefully that answered your question. And Twitch, I can see all you fine. Cool. So let's plug in this battery. Let's plug in this battery properly. Oh, it's spring. Yeah, maybe you get what you pay for with these two. Oh, come on. What is wrong with the spring? I didn't think I'd have to bring this into focus. There we go. Perfect. So as you can see here, our light is lit up on the motor driver and we've a blinking LED. So that is that working fine. So one thing that we might do to stop me having to plug in and out the battery is I might solder a switch onto the positive voltage going into the motor driver, so I can turn the whole thing off without plugging in and out a battery every time. So I brought a couple of switches. The ones I linked to in the shopping cart or whatever it's called are more like these. They're only they're what are called single pole double throw, while these ones are double pole double throw. So basically what that means is the double pole means that there's two independent switches. So this is a single pole one, So the double pole one is like there's two of these single poles, so they are not connected to each other, but when you flick the switch, the same thing happens to them, that this one is connected to that one when the switch is to the top, same for those two, and then when you switch it, the middle one is connected to the other outer one. I'm not fully sure how much current that this is going to use. While this switch isn't rated for very much current, this one will definitely handle it. So I might just use this one. I didn't have the one that I linked to. I've bought them since, but haven't gotten them yet. So I'm just going to use one of the double poles, or one of the poles from this. Yeah, I think that this one would probably be fine, because like if you look at the other cars, they have switches pretty similar to this too, but just for no fire's sake, let's use a better switch. So all we really need to do with that is cut the wire, cut it right in the middle. Yeah, probably give me more flexibility. So cutting the wire. I had plugged out the battery just in case you were worried about that. I think my wire strippers will be too aggressive. I think this wire is too thin to do my wire strippers on, so I was literally just kind of biting into the shielding, and do the same on this side. So I'm just literally just spinning around, gently squeezing and unsqueezing my snips until we get somewhere with it. Try pull, not enough, squeezing. I'll go again. How was everybody's weekend? Mine was pretty good. Kind of tiring though. Yeah. So close. There we go. That took longer than it should have. I'm just gonna get some heat shrink if I brought some. Which it seems like I didn't. Thought I did. Yeah, I'm fully sure I brought some, but I must not have. If you weren't here last week, I mentioned that I'm in my dad's office because I do not have the internet to do a live stream at home. Oh, my tablet has stopped showing me my Twitch chats. So sorry about that, Thirsty. I did not see those messages. So I'm just reloading that now. I don't know if it has connected. Let me just try it out. No, my tablet seems to have not reconnected. Let me just connect back to Restream. See, is it nothing new? The weather was terrible. Were you also in Ireland? Because the weather was terrible here. Where is everybody from? Drew, I know you're in Texas. I hope everybody that you know is safe and sound. Switzerland. All the makers are from Switzerland. There's the guy with the Swiss accent, Andreas Spice. There's also another guy who's pretty big in the Esp8266 world. I can't think of his name. Is it Daniel Ekman or Eichmann? He is also from Switzerland. So all the good makers. So you've got a good nationality behind you. Yeah, I mustn't have brought the heat shrink, or it's still in my car. Gas has gone up $1 this week. Yeah. That is a problem, alright. So what am I doing here? So I want to solder one in here. So I'm soldering one side of the battery into one of the pins. Get my whole blue tech going again. Yeah, that is kind of crazy that the price of your gas would go up so much, but I can't have too much sympathy for you because the price of gas in America compared to Ireland is crazy cheap. So we sell it by the litre, and I believe there is 4 litres in a gallon roughly, and it is €1.50 roughly, I think, maybe even a little bit more. So that's $180 a litre, so multiply that by 4 to get the gallon price. So I think it's even with going up $1, it's probably still way more expensive in Ireland than it is in Texas. Yep, I have lost my tablet's chat, so seeing as Twitch was the only one working anyways, I may as well open the Twitch app. Back to OBS. The magneticness of that. Switzerland, though, speaking of expensive places, that is an expensive place. Beautiful country. I haven't been there a huge amount now, but I think I was in I was skiing a few years ago in France, but the flights were in and out of Switzerland, and I think like a sandwich and a drink was like €18 or something. It was insane. I know that's the airport, but like even in Ireland it wouldn't be that expensive. Okay, so there is a crappy switch. So it is that works the opposite way of what I thought it would, but it works. So yep, so it's off now. Flick the switch and it's on. So perfect, we don't need to disconnect the batteries anymore. Okay, cool. So I guess the next thing would be to integrate with the driver motors. Yeah, so another thing that we let me get the chat up here. However I do that, connecting, say something. So I'm just saying hi on the chat just to make sure my tablet's working. Yeah, so Drew was just talking about the reason that the price of gas, not only the price jumped by a third, but everyone decided to buy up all the gas, filling up bathtubs as a reserve. Ugh. I don't know. That doesn't sound good. But I'll never understand people in those kind of situations. Okay. Yeah, so what am I talking about next now? So another concept that we need to introduce, if we aren't familiar with it already, is something called PWM. And what PWM is kind of a way of it's a way of achieving like a reduced voltage using a digital signal. So basically, just lighten up a regular LED, ignoring the motor driver for the moment. So if you have like a 5 volts to 0 here, so if you're lighting up the LED with 5 volts, that's the LED at say full brightness. So if you put digital pin 9 or whatever to high in the Arduino IDE, it's putting 5 volts out solidly, right? But then if you want to make that LED dimmer, you use something called PWM. And what PWM does is basically over a short period of time, it so if you want it to be like half brightness, what you do is you set it's actually analog right, and it's on a digital pin that you do. But what it does is basically over a short period of time, it I think it's called duty cycle. It basically what it does, so this is a really short period of time, it turns on and off the pin. So if you have a duty cycle of 50%, so it's on 50% of the time and then it's off for the other 50% of the time. And what that effectively does, because it's such it's happening so fast, it effectively gives an average voltage of 2.5 volts. So if you increased the duty cycle, so if again we have 5 volts and 0 volts, to say like 90%, no, let's make it 80% because that's easier to work with. So just taking the above as an example, so it's on for 80% of the time and off for the other 20% of the time. That would leave you with an average voltage of like 4 volts. So that is how we can use the same thing. The H-bridge driver supports that, where we can send PWM to the H-bridge, and it'll also do that same, like effectively let that amount of voltage through the driver. So when we saw I'm probably pronouncing it wrong as well, duty. So we saw the steering one only had 4.5 volts. So we are about to pass it 7.4 volts if we just set it completely high, or 7.2 volts if we set it completely high. So what we want to do is we want to do an analog write to the steering one to reduce that down. So we're going to do PWM to effectively make that 4.5 volts. So even though we only have one incoming voltage, we're going to effectively allow the steering to have the lower voltage, in case, like, I'm sure they did it for a reason, in terms of maybe the gear isn't able to handle higher voltages or whatever. They wouldn't have just done it out of for the fun of it. So there must be a reason why, or maybe it works better at the lower voltage. So we're going to do the same thing for the steering. But I guess the first thing that we want to test is that it works at all. So we'll just do like a blink sketch to 2 of these pins maybe, and just test that the voltage coming out of it looks okay. So we just need to use digital pins on this, so we will we'll solder in. If I have a male header with me, I might just solder in a male header beside it, so we can just use jumper cables between, which should quicken up the process a bit. And I do have male headers with me, so I just have a strip of these. So I want 4 of them, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't know if I'm meant to use my snips. This is probably why it's bent. I'm just gonna snip it. We've got nice 4 pins there. So the Esp8266, the digital pins, all of them other than D0, which is there, can do PWM. So just that is one thing to be careful of, that if you want to do PWM, you choose not D0. Right, so that should cover us there. If I put it in a little bit closer, that should allow me to just bridge it without wire. I just want to test that that it'll fit in. That's 5. That's a nice little bunch. I have bunches of 5s. Okay. Strip one off. Okay. So let's wire this up here. That in there, so we just put it somewhere where, yeah, that should work fine. I think the next one in, it does fit, but it wouldn't be easy to, sorry, I'm not really showing you what I'm doing. The next one in, it would fit, but it wouldn't be too easy to plug them in and out. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna use everybody's favorite soldering aid. Just make a thin line at the back there so it doesn't go too far in. So I'm putting a bit of blue tack at the back. What am I going to use? Maybe this step. Pinch any blue tack underneath it. Yeah, the programming of this I'm hoping won't take too long, even the web interface, because I'm just going to use some code that I have for a different project that'll hopefully get us most of the way there. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. Again, blue tack to the rescue. Yeah, somebody mentioned on the chat earlier about maybe using a helping hand. I do probably need to get a new one of those. I have a crappy one. Wheat Bixen, Aussie living in Germany now. Also, a lot of makers seem to be Australian too. Yeah, come across a lot of YouTubers with Australian accents for sure. Dave Jones being the ringleader, I suppose, of EEV blog. But to do some research on the Sonoff from last week, there was a guy who has a lot of videos on them, who was also Australian. So hello from Germany, and or hello to Germany, sorry. Oh, my blue tack did not hold strong. Come on, blue tack, don't let me down now. probably my fault. Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned this stream, but I suppose I have, due to talking about my accent or whatever, but yeah, I'm from Ireland. I'm from a place in the middle of Ireland called Athlone. If you've ever been to Ireland, you've probably passed through it when you went from Dublin to Galway. You might have stopped in it. It's kind of touristy. It's a pretty small town though. It's like 25,000 people, even in the surrounding areas, so pretty small. Big enough. Okay. Put that down there. Actually, I probably will need to use wires. I was hoping to not have to, but just to bridge the connection, but it's kind of far, so I don't know if you can see it there. It's a bit too big of a gap, I'd say, for not bridging the connection, so this is my wire from earlier, but it's kind of sharp for some reason. So, you know, I mentioned about the stranded wire, like, this would be really difficult to do if we were using solid core for that, so that is why you use stranded. Okay, let's heat this up and introduce our new wireframe to it. Should work. And let's solder it to the pin. That's a terrible solder connection. Come on. That's better on that guy. Yeah. One down. So I'm just trying to get these to line up a bit better. Trying to use the solder that I already have on the pin. That'll probably do it. On the new pin I added. Oh, it didn't do it. It's that one connected fine. So what time are we? 9 o'clock. What did they say about estimates? That you take the time that you estimate and double it, and it'll probably still be too short. Hopefully we don't have a lot left to do though, so I'll keep going. So I want to pull away basically all of it, but Oops. So I think this just worked better when I put my big blob of solder on this and slid the wire in. There was a big sporting final on in Ireland today called sport called hurling, which to Americans is not about getting sick. It's kind of like field hockey. It is. I've never played it really. It's not a huge sport where I'm from, but it's really interesting to watch. You should take a look at some highlights like on YouTube or whatever. It's crazy. I don't know how to do it. It's kind of similar to ice hockey in some ways. Like it's very, very fast. But yeah, I don't know how they can play it. It's just crazy. But it was two counties or two teams that hadn't won in a long time, so there'll be big celebrations for I work now tomorrow in Galway because they won for the first time in 29 years, 1988. So there'll be a few sore heads in work tomorrow, I'd imagine. Oops. Back here. I just need to add a little bit more solder to that. Oh, come back. Oh, this is getting warm. Oh. Okay, we're good. Right, so that is probably fine for all those pins now. Okay, so let's jumper up them together. See how we work out. So I'm just going to connect them kind of whatever way they connect, and then I'll adjust the code for the different motor pins. Hello Nazmi, and hello Saruv. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, sorry, on YouTube. Nazmi, I think you were also on the Telegram chat as well. So I've a ooh, these aren't gonna fit, are they? Should fit. I have a Telegram group for supporting the Telegram library I have, and it reached 100 users today, or maybe yesterday. I think it was today, so pretty happy with that. Okay, that was much tougher than it needed to be, but done and done. I could nearly hot glue this in. I might just tape it or something, but I'm going to test that it works first, and then we can tape it. So power is off, so we're going to program it again. Maybe that's going to try power it now. I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll be fine. It is. it's powering it. So I might be best off adding a switch on that too. It'll be fine. Okay, so let's get to the Arduino IDE. Oh, that's Sherry. Yep. So let's just do a standard blink sketch. Oh, so much stuff in the way. But let's do spell define right. Motor pin 1. Oops. Motor pin 1, and we'll say that that is D8. So D8 is something that's on Node MCU boards and also Wemos D1 mini boards. It's actually just a hash defined in like basically the board description. So that actually translates to a number, which is like the Esp8266 pin. So like if you're using Feather, his D8 isn't the digital pin 8. D8 could be like pin 4 or whatever. So you might need to just look up. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it does for that D0 comment that I mentioned earlier, but yeah, you'll have to look up the mapping between a Wemos and Feather Huzzah. D6 and D5. So motor pin 2. Yeah. Let's just call it all of that. So let's get our pin. So we're going to initialize 4 outputs. Just to test that it's working okay. Right, and we're going to digital write 2 of them. Let's just get rid of all these comments. So we're going to write 2 of them low and 2 of them high at the one time. So 2 low, let's keep them. Oops. High, low, high. And we'll go motor pin 1, motor pin 2, motor pin 3, motor pin 4. Okay, we need to add a delay. I'm going to make it 2 seconds. So delay is in microseconds. So, okay, might as well take this opportunity to save motor. Yep, and we want to do the same but inverse on this side then. So I'm going to test using a multimeter that this is working okay. So we should see the voltage switch between positive and negative 7.2 volts on the multimeter if it works right. Okay, cool, let's upload, hope for the best. Now, one thing to worry about with the Esp8266 is sometimes having pins plugged into different devices messes with like programming it, but this seems to be working fine. I should probably have some serial messages as well for debugging, but if this works, I'm happy enough without them. So I'm gonna get my little multimeter. You need to see that anymore. It's a little Rich Meters 102 multimeter from AliExpress. It was like $15. It's nice and small actually, compared to my other one. It's also, what I like about it is it's powered by AA's, or sorry, AAA's, not 9-volt batteries. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So did the program okay? Yeah, done uploading. So I guess an interesting thing to test first would be, I need to plug this out, but if I unplug these wires and test their voltage against ground, it should read 3.3 volts. So yeah, that's reading 3.3 volts, and then 0, then 3.3, and then I'll do the other one. So yeah, that's working as well. Next one in, also working. Next one in, also working. Okay, so we have 3.3 volts being switched between all of them there. So that's good. Let's hook these up. Right, connect it in, power it on, and hope. Okay. So what we're hoping to see here is the full voltage of the so yeah, the range is kind of swapping around a bit, but oh, let me turn on the light. Maybe hold keeps in range. Oh, see, it's working pretty good there. So it goes from 8 volts to -8 volts, which is exactly what we want. And let's do the same with the other one. Oh, the light doesn't stay on that long. 8 volts to -8 volts, which is perfect. So to make this somewhat more interesting, let's hook it up to the drive motor. I don't know why I plugged out those leads. Let's hook it up to the drive motor of the car, so we can see some things happening that we want to happen. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut this wire. So I should have enough slack for all the cables if I just cut it at this point here. So I'm just going to cut them individually. Cut them. There's something, there's string in it or something to, it's kind of hard to cut. It could be string in it, so goodbye little controller. Oh, sorry, my app isn't updating. Is this something you do for fun, or would you do... So, sorry, Tulladur the Kids asks, is this something I do for fun, or would be something I'd want to take a step further and try start a business? Well, I don't think I'll have too many people buying my remote control cars, but I really enjoy this at the moment. I find it a lot of fun. I would like to do it more as a... stripping this might be kind of hard. I would like to do it more as... or I would like to explore opportunities with it, but I also need to be realistic that I have a family to support now. I have a fiance and a child that yeah, I can't just follow my dreams too much now or anything. I have a good job that I do enjoy most days as a software developer, so I probably won't in realistic, in all realism, do anything with it. So yeah, there was string with that. I guess just to give it a bit of extra strength, maybe. I'm not sure. I probably realistically won't turn this into a business. The dream would be to, like, I don't know, if you could support yourself doing it somehow. The problem is I don't see how you could. And hey to iGiggles, who's one of my friends in real life. So if any of you have any good ideas on how I could support soon-to-be wife and kid out of this, let me know. Yeah, so at the moment though, I do really enjoy working on it, and I do enjoy making videos and writing up projects, and live streaming is something new, but I am also enjoying that too. The biggest issue for me with this kind of stuff though is time. I work a 9 to 5 job or whatever it is. Maybe cut those wires a little bit tight. That'll be fine. I work a 9 to 5 job or whatever it is. I also commute for an hour each way, so it's kind of 10 hours a day more gone. And then when I get home, I need to do my bit around the house or help mind the baby or whatever. So finding the time to do this stuff is sometimes the problem. But I also need to find the time to play PUBG with iGiggles. I won my first chicken dinner the other day, and I was so happy. iGiggles has a video on his... no, sorry, there's 2 other people who have videos on their channels of me, and I'm literally so happy about it. If you haven't played PUBG, I highly recommend it. It is a lot of fun. So I did not catch that wire there, but I really need to check. I have no idea why this stopped showing up the chat. Like, I'm in the official Twitch app now. Go back to the Restream page, see will it connect. Yes, it has connected, so hopefully the chat is connected again. Okay, where am I? OBS. There we go. So I am still doing an okay job showing you stuff. So I didn't catch the wire in the screw terminal when I was doing it that time, which obviously I need to do. Come back. Okay, see if I had hot glued down the motor mount now, this would probably be a little bit easier in terms of not rolling away. That's okay. That's okay. Right. The moment of truth. Let's lift up the back wheel and... oh, I'm covering your sight of the thing. So what we're just hoping now is the wheels will spin forward and then spin back. Gary has put the YouTube link of me being happy. I'm the guy who sounds like I'm a kid at Christmas. Okay, that's 3, 2, 1. I don't know if you see that, but that looks like success to me. Let me put a tiny bit of my favorite tool in the world on it, Blue Tack, so you can see it. It moves so good. So let's try that again. It could fly off, but that does not help at all. It's actually pretty fast in terms of how fast it spins. Be interesting to see how that works out in terms of in terms of speed on the ground. Okay, so I have that connected up to, I don't know which way is forward and back. Let's see, does that spin forward or back first? It spins backwards first. Oh, I broke the wire for my battery. Oops. Needs to do a solder repair job. So the wire for the battery came off the switch. Whoops. Better be more careful. Could use a lighter, but normally these cheap wires, like I could also use the soldering iron if I wanted to be really messy with it. The cheap wires, when you put a lighter on them, will burn. So what I might do is get my hot glue gun, because I don't have a huge amount of batteries, so our battery cable length. So we want to make it stick this time. The new hot glue gun. Because my fiance stole my one. The way is making things pretty so hard. What are you referring to, Drew? Is it my pretty soldering work here? I doubt it. I giggles, it sounds like a solid RC car. Yeah, sounds like an RC car. A good one now? I don't know. Just gonna plug out my charging cable from my phone, which is my hotspot. Okay, that's plugged in. I'm just about reaching far enough. I need to get its stand, wherever that is. Burn a hole in my dad's desk. So, yep, another recommendation if you haven't been using them is hot glue guns are amazing for projects. They just they add a nice bit of solidness easily, and it's easy to remove the hot glue if you need to as well. Just reheat it and it turns back to liquidy mush, and you can do whatever you need to do with it then. So hot glue, top tip. So just while I'm waiting for the glue gun to heat up, I may as well strip the wire for the steering. And get that plugged in. Although I should flash a new sketch onto it. Yeah, I should flash a new sketch onto it. Oh, do you know what I could do actually? I could use the second pole of the. Use the second pole of the. Use the second pole of the switch to connect this, because I only want them connected when the switch is on. So I heard a saying that hot glue is nectar of the gods. Yeah, it could be. I haven't tried eating it. Maybe though. Yeah, it's super useful though. It's cheap as well. Like a hot glue gun is less than $10 maybe, and glue sticks aren't too expensive either, so yep, highly recommend it to add that bit of unprofessionalism to your project. It does help though, you know, it's good for insulating, it's good for making things a little bit more permanent, so yeah. Now, I do have one problem with this, that the car keeps rolling away. No, my other problem with this is that when I plug this back in, it's going to be going full whack on the steering, which I don't want. So I might remove those lines of code. So this is, I'll just unplug that so it doesn't, even if it's powering it at the moment, it doesn't. So Drew was saying on the chat that what he was trying to make look good was a screen on a TFT on an Arduino. Yes, not good at all. There's a nice smell of hot glue in here now, so we should be going somewhere. The glue stick's going somewhere. Not through the nozzle though, so I'll let it heat up a little bit more. Right, while we're waiting for that to happen, let's do a bit of programming. So I've just disconnected them because this would be powered up, which would be flicking these, which would be, yeah, so we don't want that. I won't bother showing you that I'm just commenting out motor pin 3 and 4 because they should be the ones controlling the steering if I'm right. And I'm just gonna re-upload that. Yeah, iGiggles has a pretty cool project in the works. Whenever he gets around to it, he also has the same time problems as me. It'd be pretty useful for me, Gary, if you ever get around to it. It's basically a device for controlling like OBS or whatever. Drew, yeah, work away. Throw up your picture. More than welcome. Okay, finally some glue out, and I got it on the page so I didn't wreck my dad's office. Okay, so I am going to do that thing with the switch that has done uploading. So I'm going to use the other pole of the switch to close, or yeah, to switch between the power between what do I want to do here the other way? Ugh. Get up and move around. I'm probably blocking your view. I'm sorry. My view is more important than yours right now. Yeah, between the 5-volt regulator and the Arduino or the USB. So when I have it plugged into USB, I'm not powering up the regulator. Yeah. The amount of kids you have is completely relational to how much free time you have, for sure. Yeah. So the wire is gonna be hard to push through. I will open that link in a minute, Drew. One screen I really like is the OLED screens, mainly because they only have 2 data wires. So like one limitation about the ESP8266. Even the development boards don't have a huge amount of pins. Like they've 9 digital pins and 1 analog pin, which isn't a huge amount. So like if you're using a screen or something that takes up like 5 pins, that's a lot of your pins gone. So something like the OLED screen is nice because only uses 2 data pins, which frees up the rest of the pins for other things. The main thing I do with ESP8266 is those more Wi-Fi based projects. Like if you look through my GitHub, most of my libraries are to do with integrating with some API or another, and like displaying the information on screen, like the YouTube subscriber stats or Google Maps API or whatever. So I need to clean out this one. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Turn on my soldering iron anyways. As soon as I get this anyway good, I'm putting hot glue all over the place. Sucker, maybe? iGiggles, I can answer that question. He is not on the Adafruit Discord. I don't think. Maybe he is. Doubt it. I'd actually recommend it to everybody as well, though, that the Adafruit Discord, burning stuff, is a pretty cool place to get project help and stuff. Generally a nice community. I'm making a mess of this. I'm gonna sit back down. Ugh. I don't know what what you were looking at there. Okay. I think I will. I might have enough room to put this through the hole at the bottom. So the switch legs have like little holes in them, and there's a big blob of solder in the one that I need to reattach to. I got most of a wire through, so that will do fine. Yeah. So we'll just put a bit of solder in here for each of them, and we should be good to go. I don't know if I trust that tablet in terms of being connected anymore, especially the last messages that I see on it are all duplicated, so that there's something going wrong with it. Can you see what I'm doing? No. Oh yeah, actually you are. Yeah. I forgot. It's not an invite thing or anything. I think you can go to adafruit.com/Discord and it'll bring you to the Adafruit Discord. Blob of solder. Ugh. I'm doing a bad job. I'll do. Messy, but effective. So if this goes in okay, I might. Sorry, I don't know why I'm talking so quiet. If this goes in okay, I might hot glue some more stuff in place. Slowly, oh yes. Come on up here, switch. No. glob some hot glue in here. My hand is shaking. It's actually quite a stiff trigger on it. Oh, blob. Oops. Don't touch the hot glue. Come back. Yeah, that'll give it a small bit of strength. Oh yeah, there's a little nub here that I was meant to get rid of. Or can I still get rid of it now? So it's just a little screw. It doesn't hold the case on. It was for like the stand of the box. So I'm just gonna see if I can break it off. I might break the case of the car. Dremel would be the right tool. I didn't bring my Dremel. It seems to be not coming off. I could saw at it with a knife. It's probably not a good idea. It's just that I can fit the battery in a bit better if I had that gone. I can use the cutty part of this. Oh, it's actually quite hard. My tablet is running out of battery. Yeah, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Sorry, battery. You'll have to find some other way to survive in here. Okay. Let's plug M back in. There for a minute. I don't know if the switch is on or off now. Ugh, stupid spring. Oh, didn't turn on anyways. Better just lift it up before I turn it on. Yeah. I don't have enough strength to flick the switch with one hand. Okay. The switch probably needs to be stuck to something because I can't turn it on and off with one hand because it just moves around so much. I could also do with finding somewhere to put this battery. Absolute mess of wiring and stuff in here. Maybe hot glue the battery pack to there. It's probably too tall. There, fits. Stuck in place too. Right. Okay, it's just to do the PWM for the motor driver. Let's set this up. Mambaded11 says, just tried Wi-Fi Manager and it works like magic. Yeah, Wi-Fi Manager is awesome. Totally, you should use that a lot. Also, the fact that you can like add some configurations to it is really nice too. Let me just check YouTube. Linux, can you PWM the motors slow down? Yes, we totally can, and I'm going to do that right now. I need to get... Oh, let me share my screen with you. Desktop. Cool. So, analog write Esp8266. So normally with analog write, it's 255 is the max, but the PWM range for an Esp8266 is 1023. So if you want it to be half duty cycle, like we were talking about earlier, you want it to be half 1023, so whatever, 512. Yep. So other than that, it works pretty much the same as digital write. So let's do that now. Get rid of analog write, or digital write. We go analog write. We're doing motor pin. One thing actually that I found different to normal Arduino as well with analog write and then Esp8266, if you want to disable it so you can just do regular digital writes to it again, you need to first write analog write 0 to it, or else it doesn't seem to work. With regular Arduino, when you do digital write, it'll clear out the analog write. That didn't seem to happen for me. So yeah, if I have, we were reading like 8 volts on the pin, so we want pretty much half that. So I guess let's get now calculator, trusty calculator. This is huge. What we have, well, we'll say it's 7.5 volts, and we want to get 4.5 out of it. Other way around, is it? 4.5 divided by 7.5. So it's 0.6. So if we multiply 1023 by 0.6, we get 613. So we want to do an analog write of 613 also. And then we're going to do on the next one, we'll do an analog write of 0. So this is, let me pull off the hot glue guns, that's terrible. Let's plug that out. We're only hitting 10 o'clock. That's fine though. We want to swap it around. So yeah, this is setting a duty cycle of 60% ish probably. So yeah, that should work for us. So we have it switched off, but we need to program it. How can you see now? So I've done all we need to do there. And desk with me. Okay, let's go up a bit, gain ourselves some extra room. So I'm gonna plug in the, oh, that's a bit off balance, lunch box. The battery is actually quite heavy. Let's move us up a bit. So I'm just putting it up on a lunchbox so it has room to maneuver. Right, so things plugged in. I'm just checking the COM port hasn't changed, so now it's programming. So Taka on the chat is the ESP. Didn't know that ESP had a wider range for analog write. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay, so he was saying that his LED strip is so dark. So you know, if he was using an Uno, 255 is the max, but like with an ESP, 255 is what, a quarter. So yeah, that would explain it. So good to know. Somebody got something useful out of this stream, anyways. Okay, so let's flick it on. Okay, so it's going one way, but it's not going the other, and it's because I copied and pasted badly. I'm surprised it worked at all. I analog wrote to pin 3 multiple times, so let me just upload that again. And while that's uploading, let me check on YouTube. No new comments there. 4 people watching though, so hello to you. And then on Twitch we've got 6 people watching. Hello to all of you. And still programming. Done uploading. Okay, cool. Let's plug out the USB cable. So I'm sure you can't hear much when this is on, but that's working. That's working perfectly. So now we just need to put a web interface on this thing and see how she goes. I guess the other thing that we should probably do is make sure the lid fits on it. Everything's a little loosey-goosey in there, but the lid fits on. I'm happy enough. Ugh. Maybe the battery pack can't stand up. I think it should be able to. Bend. Stay bent. Okay, that fits on fine. I'm happy enough with that. Okay. Right, let's see if we can do this in like 10 minutes. I doubt it, but sure, let's see how we go. I better share my screen with you guys. Okay, stop. Right, so I'm gonna go to my GitHub. I have what do I have? What would be the best thing for this? Oh yeah. So repositories. So I have one. It's a IR remote. Yep. So I have a web interface for this, and it's just a simple web interface built using React. No, not React. Sorry, Bootstrap. So let's use the same for that. I think I'll just grab all of it and move the motor code into this. Okay, so you're also, are you gonna see my SSID password? No. Is that important? Maybe. Let me just change my I'm hotspotting from my phone, so project help. Yeah. Let me just change the hotspot on my phone to something not important. I'm kind of on the fence of whether it's important or not that you see my my things. You know, I live in the middle of nowhere, but I guess just to be safe, I'll change my hotspot to be something else. Right. Show password. Yes. Okay. Real secure password. I need to change my tablet to connect to it though. So real secure password, Brian Lock, all lowercase. If you're in the wider Athlone area, feel free to steal my phone internet. Okay, sorry about that. Brian Lock. Okay, cool. And my tablet connected to it fine. Am I still on the chat? Maybe. I don't know. I'll reload. Seem to have connected. Okay, cool. Right. So we need to take the motor pin definitions and the setup actually. Okay, we don't need the IR remote. We don't need delay between commands. We don't need any of that. We do need the web server, I think. Okay, that's fine. Sketch, so that's our password. Don't need this. Do need web server, so that's creating a web server. Don't need that LED. So this row div stuff is building up sorry, generate button is yeah, row div is just the start of a HTML row, and end div is that too. Generate button generates a button. We will be changing this slightly, but we'll get to it in a minute. Let us change our setup, so we don't need IR send anymore. We need these motor pins. Let's see if this is motor web. Spell motor right, hopefully. Nope. Motor web. Let me just exit out of Steam in case people don't want their names showed up. Okay, cool. So we have the motor pins. We don't want to digital write anything. We're beginning with this Wi-Fi SSID and password. Probably, if you were making this properly, you'd host your own SSID on the ESP, so you know you can bring the car wherever. But we're not going to do that. Okay, so let's create a few endpoints here. So these are when we make a request to normal, it's going to go do this handle root method. When we make a request to /forward, we're going to do something in here. When we make a request to /back, we'll do something else. When we make a request to /right, we'll do something. And when we make when we make a request to /left, we'll do something else. And then we're going to get rid of all of the rest of them because we don't want them. We want the handle not found though, and we want, yep, all of that looks fine. So what we do in here needs to change, obviously enough. So we probably want to stop, actually. Yeah, we definitely do. So we want to forward and then stop. Yes. Let's see. Let's grab this guy and we'll do drive stop, and we want to steer stop as well. So when you let go of the button, you want it to stop rotating. So we want, yeah, we have a steer stop, if I spelled steer right, and drive stop. So I guess for debugging we need to do a print n. Let's get rid of the IR send. So this was all code to do with the sending of commands to my TV. So it was using could you move the Arduino? Can't read. Oh, sorry. Let me just check. You can't read the beginning of the lines. Is it jump? Oh, sorry about that. That should fix it for you. Let me know if it doesn't, Thirsty. Also, actually, let me make the text bigger. Let me know if that's better. If it's not, I could definitely move the window to the right. Cool, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I just my scene in OBS had the share screen slightly off to the left, which was causing that problem, so thank you. Yeah, so getting rid of that. The IR the IR remote project is actually a pretty fun one. It's on my YouTube channel if you wanted to make it. It's really simple and cheap project to make, and it's actually pretty useful. And the web interface is actually quite nice looking too. So server send. So yeah, this is so the server send is just basically you need to respond something to the. So we're going to be making these requests in the background. Like we're not going to be we're going to be making AJAX calls with them. So AJAX is a background request. And if you don't respond anything, your browser will stop making background requests. So yeah, you definitely want to respond something. So this is just going to return a page that says back on it, and that's enough for the browser to be happy that it got a response and will start making new ones again. Yeah, if you don't do anything, I think Chrome limits it to 6 without a response or something like that. But either way, just respond anything. It doesn't really matter. You're absolutely welcome, Thirsty. Thank you for sticking around as long as you have. Listening to me babble on for 3 hours now. I'm sure my fiance, it's kind of hard to get used to saying that, is probably wondering where I am. I said I'd be finished at 9. Oh well. Okay, so this is handling what we do when we get a background request for all these actions, but now we need buttons to do all these actions. So yep, so what this is a basic web page that Bootstrap gives you ways of making like nice buttons and columns and rows and stuff. I have to sleep in the doghouse. Our dogs sleep in our bedroom, so there is a crate that we use, so maybe I have to sleep in that tonight. I don't know. Yeah, probably. Yeah, so this might be easiest to draw out actually, so let me just shoot to the desk for a second. So is it easier to move the car or the... so it's off. Yeah, this desk is such a mess. I have to clean up before I go to... I don't know where my pen is. Oh, there it is. Okay, so basically what Bootstrap has that's really nice is this grid system. So like basically here's your web page. You can define rows, and then inside the rows you can define columns. So a row is 12 wide. This is why you make sure she has the URL for the stream. She definitely does. She doesn't care. I think the last day she was using she was texting one of the guys who does use streaming. I need to try CSS grid layout. I'll take a note of that. I do find Bootstrap pretty good. I'm not really a full-time web developer or anything, so I kind of just do what I can. So they're 12 wide. So you'll see in the code here that I've like them defined as like 4. I have the columns defined as 4 wide, which gives me 3 columns across. So if I made them 3 wide, there'd be 4 columns across or whatever. And what's also pretty nice about it is you can do different sizes for different screens. So like you could say that this thing is 4 wide on a desktop but 6 on a mobile. So if this was also 6, you're now at your 12. So if this was 6, it would automatically go down to the next row. So that's one way responsive design is worked. So we are going to do not responsive design. We're just going to use so what I want to do is I want I guess something like this. Ideally when the screen is sideways, I'd have up, back, or drive and back. That's my lovely writing. Drive and back, and then I'd have one here, left and right, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, seems about right to me. So I guess what we have there is we've kind of 3 rows, and this one is kind of taken up, these ones are taken up like the final third. So I don't know, I can probably just do a blank one here or something. There is ways of making it start over here, but I might just do it. I might have managed to damage my M0 Express. That is a disaster, Drew. So yeah, same with this blank one here, and then maybe we'll just have 2 there. So okay, let's see how we get on. Okay, so I'm gonna do generate div, or generate button. So the button is in a div. So instead of generate button, I'm going to generate a blank div. So I'm just going to grab this here. There's probably easier ways of doing this. I don't know what they are though, so yep. So let's get going with what we have. Okay, so it's a div, it's not a class row, it's a class column size. So we'll do this. We're going to make it 8 because we want it to take up the first 2/3. We don't want any padding on it, and that should be it, I think. Anybody better at HTML than me, feel free to correct me, but we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Then we want to generate a button, and so the generate button method, we're going to need to change it. It needs a call size, it needs that ID, doesn't matter, text, yeah, URL, yeah, and we need a stop URL. Can't see my screen, ooh, sorry. There. Sorry about that. So basically, this is my div that I'm going to use to blank out the first part of it. And now I'm changing the generate button. I need on touch, we'll say, and on touch lifted. Touch stop. I think it's on touch start or something. I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that right now. On touch start HTML5. Is that? Oh, BlackBerry. Why am I here? Isn't it? Touch start. Yeah. Do I have to add it as an event listener? Or can I just add it to the HTML? I thought I could add it to the HTML. Maybe I can't, so I need to add the event listener. On touch go. Is on touch go? No. Yeah, maybe I do need to add an event listener. I wanted to avoid doing that, but if I have to, I have to. On touch property touch. Was it here? There's no touch. You can find touch start, touch, yeah. Yeah, it's on touch start. This will yeah, this will do me. Touch on touch start. I hope we have this one working. We'll just try it straight away. So we've button type class, we've ID, that's all fine. On click, we want to change this to be on touch start. We want on touch start method here. Basically what we want to pass in to on touch start, and then we want to, where is the end of that? We want to do the same thing for on touch lifted, or whatever it is called. What is it? On touch end. That is sad. Drew, sorry about that. On touch end, and we're calling this on touch stop apparently. So we want to generate one button. It is going to be called drive. The first one is /forward, I think. Forward, and then the second one is drive stop. Okay, that's that one. We can get rid of the rest of these. We need the end of this, probably generate button. Probably that. I start a div, I go in here and do this stuff, I end the row div. Yep, that should probably be it. I would be surprised if it works first time. Yep, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there. Okay. Bets on this working. I doubt it'll even compile until I do something else. Let's see though. No, LED. Go away, LED. Oh, there's another one. Right, I already got rid of that. Let me check. Yep, checking in on me. We'll be finished soon, hopefully. Okay, it's uploading. Do I print out the... Yeah. So you don't have to sleep under the doghouse. And I'll be buried under the doghouse, sleeping with the fishes. Okay. Let me just grab the IP address. Probably this. Okay. Ooh, that's a weird IP address. 4345. So my PC is not connected to the same network as my as my phone. I have bought something to do that for me soon. A little router that'll kind of share the Wi-Fi, or sorry, the Ethernet connection as Wi-Fi as well. But for the moment, we're going to just need to use my phone. But I guess let me check, did it work? 192.168.43.45 is what we said it was. Okay. It doesn't look right, but it does work though. Let's see my OBS. Oh yes, I can't do both of those things. Okay, so if I go back to my Arduino, let me get rid of the motor web and this. So if I hold down the drive button, it says forward, and then when I let go, it says drive stop, which is progress. It doesn't seem to like my blank div though, so I might just put something in that. Yep, let me just put something in it. You're gonna have to tell our weirdos from the internet from Texas, thank you for sharing Brian with us. Please don't maim him too much. I'll pass that on, hopefully that'll work. Maybe it'll work okay if I just put the end div here instead. Yeah. Row div, this is the start of this div, so I'm ending this div. Generate button which has an end div in it, and we should be okay then. So happy that the thing worked okay. Does it sound like I know a few Irish women? Do you know a few Irish women? No, in fairness, she's pretty easygoing. She is, to her detriment, pretty supportive of me doing these type of things, like streaming and making videos and stuff. It's like she has to put a lot of effort into it too, or not. She doesn't do anything with the actual videos, but if I'm making videos, I'm not minding babies or cooking dinners, so definitely comes at a cost for her, so you can all thank her. Okay, so that's uploaded. Let's see, did it make any difference? Cool, it did. So I was just doing that wrong, so awesome. Let's do another row. So we want to generate a button. We want to generate 2 buttons, and then we'll have a blank one at the end. So we'll do this 4. Chip in for a care package full of chocolate and whiskey. She'd definitely appreciate some of that. Strange as it is for Irish people, neither of us drink alcohol. Nothing religious or anything, just neither of us started and never really, I don't know, picked it up. So kind of unusual, I guess. Although maybe not that unusual, because iGiggles is another Irish person and he also doesn't drink, so don't know. But I'm sure she'd appreciate the chocolates very much. Okay, so I just need another one down the back. What did I call this? Back? Back. Okay, this is all great, but I'm not making them do anything at the moment. Also, drive stop is right. I don't know. iGiggles. I don't know if our what is that? I don't know, questionnaire terms. Like we've a sample case of 2 families. I don't know if that's a big enough sample case, but yeah. Okay, so that should be okay in terms of the website, so let's just program that up. I'm still sharing with you guys, isn't it? Yep. Cool. So let's hope that that's okay. And once that's done, we just need to add in some of the stuff that we had in the other example, and that should be it. We should be able to bring it for a little drive. I'm not fully sure how I'm going to show you that. Let's figure that out when we get there. So like changes that you might want to make to this project is, instead of buttons like on a screen, like it'd probably be better to have like an analog stick or something, so you can control how fast drive is. So rather than it just being like, oh, I forgot to change the names of the buttons. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, my phone. But oh yeah, there you go. Drive. Yeah, cool. Let me change them, but at least they're working okay. Oh, sorry. Let me check that they work okay. Gary and your remotes. Yes, what do I need to do here and here? So drive goes forward, back goes back, right goes right, left goes left. Awesome. Let me just fix them. So they also all have the same ID for no reason. Let's not go all caps just yet. Back. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna bother rerun them. Let's grab some stuff. Okay, so when we might need to play around with this, but either this is drive forward or it's drive back. I think this could be drive forward, so let's try that one. So you probably want to move this into its own method or whatever, but I'm not gonna bother. So that should do that. Let's do the opposite for back. So pin motor, just do that, should fix it. Yep. And then if I do drive stop, so again we want to you're thinking about a pizza. I don't know what those other things are. It's really small on the tablet. The top one's obviously a pizza. I don't know. Looking forward to getting you some Twitter emotes. Can we make like little Arduino-y ones or whatever? I don't know if too many people do Arduino streaming on Twitch. I guess it's kind of an unusual thing to stream. Like, I don't know, if you're into it, you're probably into it, and it's maybe a bit too slow a pace or whatever, but I don't know. I'm not huge into Twitch, to be honest. Getting more into it, obviously. I don't know if this is going to be right or wrong, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Embedded streams are a niche. They sure are. To be completely honest, when I was talking to iGiggles about maybe streaming in the first place, like, we kind of were saying that if we got like anybody looking at a stream that wasn't someone I knew, it would be an achievement. So pretty happy with how it's going so far. I know it's not huge numbers or anything, but that's pretty nice. It's possibly a way of I've this stuff recorded now that it could be edited down to make an okay video out of. Who knows? One thing I find hard about doing the videos is the editing of it. It's not the recording of an hour long, or sorry, a 5-minute video. That's no problem. It's the editing and voiceover and things like that. But none of that here. So, ooh, got that wrong. Steer stop. 613. So no idea if left or right are right, but I guess there's one way to find out. Let me open that image that you sent. What is that? It's a cow eating a pie, maybe? What kind of a pie is it? Looks good though. Let me check on YouTube. I haven't checked on them in a while. 4 people watching. Hello. Oh, this thing is kind of in your way. Oh well. And 9 on Twitch. It's Beefalo from Don't Starve. I've never played Don't Starve. Heard good things. I don't play a huge amount of games other than PUBG. Always PUBG. Eating a dragon fruit pie. Right, done uploading. So if everything worked out the way it was meant to, let's swap us over to main desk with me. Let's move me down here. It's very straight. Yeah. Cool. Let's flick the switch. It shouldn't run off on its own now. Oh, okay. Obviously part of the boot up turns on those pins or something. Okay. Do we think this is gonna work? Let's check that. Okay, so that looks okay now. Is that gonna bring me forward or back? Looks like that works okay. Right and left are wrong. Oof. It sounds awful. There's a high-pitched hum as if the motor is just working too hard when you get to the end. Like, just turn your phone. Like tilt my phone. Okay, let me re-upload with right and left swapped around. And then we are gonna bring it for a little drive. There's something weird, yeah, definitely with the motor when it's steering. Like when it reaches the end, it goes to a high-pitched noise as if the motor is still trying to turn and it's not able to. But at the same time, the controller literally just closed connections between them. I don't know if you can see it. So like, what happened was there was a little like analog sticky thing that pushed this down, which connected it to 5 volts or whatever, 4.5 volts, and sent that to the motor, and the other one was pushing up against this ground plate up here. So like that wasn't doing anything special either, it was just applying 4.5 volts, so I don't know what to do. So if I just change these around, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm just literally changing what was in right to left and vice versa from the analog right perspective. Okay. Oh, I gotta upload. Why is that? Is it the wrong serial port? I think I just had the serial port open. Right, I guess while that is uploading, I should be thinking about how I'm going to show this to you. Let's see. I guess I could just use the top me camera and point it down at the floor. particularly good. Let's see how that is. It's gotten very dark on the desk since I turned the light around. Let's change the main me. Okay. Actually, before we do that, I should probably screw in the base of the car, or the roof of the car, so it looks nice. Gotta have it looking nice. So the reason it's so dark in the room is you can actually see it now that I don't have the other light on. I have the light on in the other office, but there's fluorescent lights in here and they flicker really badly, so I'm providing my own lights. Possibly heard somebody. They can come in and join in on the stream. So let's plug this out, let's flick this on and let it drive a little bit. Probably turned that thing around too quick. Wondering what that noise is, it's me opening a lunchbox that has screws in it. So I have the problem now of I need to screw at this, but I also can't turn it the right way around or turn it upside down because the battery and stuff is not. Okay, that's one in. Just a light on in there. That's good. Let's get the opposite one in. Sorry, I'm not showing you much on screen at the moment. I'm literally just screwing the screws of the car back in place. Oh. The two should be fine. That's it. Okay, moment of truth. Oh no, I beached it. I should probably move that. This is pretty fun. The buttons could do with being a bit bigger. It's a little hard to control that way. I'm also just a terrible driver. But it's actually it's pretty responsive when you do hit the buttons right. Like, let me show you. So maybe if I turn the brightness of my phone down, maybe. I have so many notifications. Yeah, so you oh, go away. So you can see it here. Like it's seems a bit less responsive. Like it's pretty responsive. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a project I've been meaning to do for a really long time. So, pretty happy with that. Let me turn our lights back around. Let's see, can I look back at my messy desk? This is all I need to clean up before I go. So obviously, you'd want a switch on the outside of the car, because I need to unscrew this to get at the switch again. That would be probably the first modification I'd make. And you'd want to hold the stuff down better than it currently is. You know, it's just completely loose inside, so you'd want to yeah, hold it down. You need something like this, hot selling Bluetooth gamepad. That would be an option for it for sure. So like a common project for an Arduino, or a fairly common project, would be to make a car Bluetooth controlled. So it'd be the exact same idea as this, except instead of Wi-Fi, you'd have Bluetooth instead. So yeah, like definitely you'd want to hold down the stuff better in here. You'd want to make the switch accessible. You'd want to make the switch accessible from the outside, 100%. Some other kind of cool things you could do. I didn't think. I'd get to them, and I didn't. I've already overshot by an hour and 40 minutes. I could put the switch on the top so it'll look like a radio antenna. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, you could drill it through the top here. Sorry, the light was still pretty bad. That's better. Yeah, you could put it through the top for sure. Some other things that maybe I would have done is this is, I think it's sold as like a collision detector. Yeah, so Thirsty said you could put lights in the car. So there is like, it's kind of dark actually there. There's two like light holes there, which like are nearly perfectly LED sized. So I'd either put LEDs in them, or maybe maybe put these in them. I think they're called collision detectors. So basically one of them is an infrared light LED and the other is an infrared receiver LED. And what it does is it like lights out, sends a light out using the infrared LED and looks for like it back. So if it was pretty close to an object, it would, you know, reflect back the infrared LED to the infrared receiver, so you know you would know if it was close to something. So you could put maybe the two of them in the headlights instead, so you know you could prevent collisions. Germany in the chat is for Bluetooth. You'll need an ESP32. ESP8266 doesn't have Bluetooth. True, it doesn't, but I probably don't have one here with me. You can get Bluetooth modules for it, and also the ESP32 does have Bluetooth, but it's not accessible from the Arduino environment at the moment, so that's something the ESP guys are still working on, I think. Another thing you could do is these are like an echo sensor. So you know you can maybe stick it on the front of the car or somewhere. So basically how they work is they send out a sound and listen for how long it takes for the sound. Oh, sorry, I'm in the way. They send out a sound and they listen for how long it takes for the sound to come back, and they use the speed of sound being a constant to figure out how far away something is. So you could maybe use it also to check for like collision around you or whatever. So yeah, a couple of different things you could do to make the project better. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions for the next couple of minutes, I'd be happy to try answer them. Enda on YouTube, who is a friend of mine, will there be a live stream part of the wedding? I really doubt it. Okay, paint little faces on those and have them look through the windshield. That's a pretty great idea. The windshield is black plastic now, but I guess you could try replace it with something else. But yeah, it's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah, I'm not sure where you'd put that. I've seen some people like put them. We were looking nearly 4 hours ago now at servo motors. I've seen some people put the like these echo sensors on top of a servo motor, so you can get it to look around to try like figure out where would be a good direction to go next. Speed of sound isn't actually constant. It varies with atmospheric pressure. True. It's pretty constant. It's pretty constant in, like, I guess that locality or whatever. Also, yeah, if you had your echo sensor working underwater, it would work different too. Yeah, I guess, I don't know, would you need a humidity sensor a temperature and humidity sensor to properly calculate it? I guess as well, you're not really interested, is it like exactly 5 centimeters away? You're wondering, is there something 4 to 6 centimeters away? So that should cover you. If it worked and didn't short out. Yeah, probably. Any other questions on YouTube? Nope. Hello to the 3 people still watching. Let me just check. Was there any comments on Reddit? At this stage, I'm not looking at them. There was one extra comment. Please update this post when the recording is available. Alright, cool. Yep, I'll definitely do that, sir. Or ma'am. It also depends on the medium. That is correct, Taka9. Okay, I guess we will finish up at that. I thought I would be streaming for 2 hours. It has been close to 4, so a bit longer than I had planned. I have a couple more ideas for streams, but if there's anything you would like to see, feel free to get in touch with me. Twitter or YouTube or however should be fine. I should be releasing at least one YouTube video this week. I'm hoping maybe to do a couple, but we'll see how time goes. One probably, unless you're new to Esp8266s, won't be interesting to you. It's the one about setting up the environment. And then I'm thinking of maybe doing a Bitcoin display or a cryptocurrency display. Again, I might try aim that to people who are very new to it as well, because I have a feeling that there will be people from more of a cryptocurrency kind of interest background who might be interested in making the things. So I'll maybe even try focus on getting ones that work, or getting that working with something solderless like the Node MCU. So it's kind of reducing the barrier of entry. But yeah, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. And I think other than that, I think it's time to call it a day. So thanks a lot for joining. Probably won't be streaming next week, but we'll see. Okay, thanks guys.